The future is the one place the mind goes most often and benefits from least, not because thinking about the future is wrong, because the mind's version of the future is not actually the future. It is a projection, a construction assembled from fear and hope and the patterns the past has established and the expectations the present has generated. And that construction, however detailed and convincing, is not what will actually happen. The real future is held by someone else, someone who sees it not as a projection, but as a reality already known, someone whose knowledge of what is coming is not a prediction, but a certainty, and that someone is not the worried mind-spinning scenarios in the early hours of a Thursday morning. Clarity about the future does not come from better projections. It comes from better anchoring, from learning to rest in the one who holds what the mind keeps trying to reach. From the deliberate, practiced, sometimes costly choice to say, I do not need to see what is coming. I need to trust the one who does. That is what this Thursday morning is asking for. Not a spiritual vision of what the next months will hold. Clarity, the specific, practical, peace-producing clarity that comes from a mind that has released the future to God and received in its place the settled confidence that the future is genuinely held by someone qualified to hold it. This is Thursday, April 2nd, and the week is past its midpoint, which means the mind has had several days now to run its scenarios about what this week will produce and what next week will require, and what the month ahead is beginning to look like, and whether the direction things are moving is the direction they should be moving. The mental modeling of the future has been ongoing, and it has not produced the clarity you came here looking for. Because that kind of clarity does not come from the modeling, it comes from the releasing. His word declares in the book of Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11, that the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. That verse is not a promise that everything the future holds will be comfortable. It is a promise about the character of the one who holds it. The plans are his. The future is in hands that intend good for the person the promise was made to, and the clarity that comes from knowing the character of the one who holds the future is a different kind of clarity than the kind the modeling produces. It is not information, it is peace. Before we enter this prayer, write in the comments right now, I trust God with my future. His plans for me are good, and I do not need to see them all to walk forward in faith. Write it as a declaration before the anxiety of the unknown has a chance to assert what the prayer is about to address. Like this video as an act of choosing trust over the controlling instinct the unknown produces. Subscribe to this channel so we can begin every day together, including the Thursdays when the future feels more uncertain than the week's midpoint should allow. And share this prayer with someone who is standing at a threshold they cannot see clearly past. Your sharing may be the thing that shifts how they face what they cannot yet see. Now let us bring the future before the only one who actually holds it. Lord my God and my Father, I come before you on this Thursday morning, and I do something the mind resists more than almost anything else. I release the future, not permanently, not in a way that eliminates planning or discernment or the responsible consideration of what is coming, but in this prayer, for this hour, I release the grip. I open the hand that has been holding the future tightly, as if the holding were doing something the releasing would undo. I bring what I have been carrying about what is ahead, and I place it before you. The questions that do not have answers yet, the directions that are not yet clear, the outcomes I have been trying to ensure through sheer mental effort. All of it before you, right now. Your word declares in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9, that in their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. I bring my course to you, and I trust you to establish the steps, not after I have planned perfectly, now, in the middle of the uncertainty, with the plan still incomplete and the future still unclear. Establish my steps, Lord, one step at a time, through the Thursday that is here and into the future I cannot yet see. Father, I want to be honest about what the mind does with an unknown future. It fills it. The human mind cannot tolerate a blank space of any significant duration. When the future is genuinely uncertain, the mind does not sit with the uncertainty calmly. It moves in. It furnishes the unknown space with projections, with scenarios, with the most likely version and the worst-case version, and a handful of middle options that feel like responsible contingency planning, but that are really just anxiety wearing the clothes of preparation. And the projections feel real. They feel like the future rather than a construction of the future. The worried version of what might happen sits in the mind with the same emotional weight as something that has actually happened. The body responds to it as if it were a memory rather than an imagining. The heart rate, the tension, the low-grade dread, all of it is produced by something that does not exist yet and may never exist in the form the mind has constructed for it. That is the particular cruelty of anxiety about the future. It creates suffering from something that is not yet real and may never become real. It spends today's peace on tomorrow's imagined difficulty. And the tomorrow arrives in a form that is almost never exactly what was projected. Different difficulty, different grace, different landscape entirely. And the suffering that was spent preparing for the imagined version of it turns out to have been spent on a scenario that never materialized. While the actual version of tomorrow, the one that did arrive, required a grace that was also available, but that the anxious preparation for the imagined version had not left room to receive. Maybe that is exactly where you are this Thursday, spending today's peace on tomorrow's imagined problems, running the mental model of a future that will arrive differently than the model predicted. Your word declares in the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 34, that each day has enough trouble of its own. That is not pessimism, it is a boundary. Today's trouble is enough. It is all that is currently yours to carry. Tomorrow's trouble is not yet yours. It belongs to tomorrow. And the grace for tomorrow's trouble will be available tomorrow. It is not available today because it is not needed today. What is available today is the grace for today. And the person who is spending today's capacity worrying about tomorrow is left short on grace for the actual demands of the day they are actually living. And Father, I want to name something that anxiety about the future does to the present that almost nobody talks about directly. It steals the evidence. Every day contains moments of God's faithfulness, small ones often, easy to miss if the mind is elsewhere. The provision that arrived, the conversation that went better than expected, the grace that was sufficient for the actual difficulty rather than the imagined one. But the person whose mind is living in a projected future cannot collect that evidence. They move through the present without landing in it. And so the evidence of today's faithfulness does not accumulate the way it would in a present-anchored person. Without the accumulated evidence, faith that the future will also be faithful has less to stand on. This is why presence is an act of faith and an investment in future trust simultaneously. The person who is fully here today is building the track record that will carry them through tomorrow's uncertainty. Every moment of faithfulness received and acknowledged today becomes the material from which tomorrow's faith is built. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 105, that your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path, a lamp to the feet, not a floodlight on the entire road. The next step is illuminated. The one after that is not yet visible because the lamp moves with the person. You do not need to see all the steps to take the next one. You need enough light for the one immediately in front of you. And that light is always there, always sufficient for the step required right now. Let that be the clarity I receive today, Lord. Not the whole road, the next step clearly lit. I trust God with my future. His plans for me are good, and I do not need to see them all to walk forward in faith. Lord, I want to bring the story of Abraham into this prayer, because no story in Scripture speaks more directly to trusting God with a future that is genuinely unclear. God called Abraham to leave his country, his people, and his father's household, and go to the land I will show you. Your word declares in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, verse 8, that Abraham obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. He did not know where he was going. That is the version of faith this Thursday is asking for. Not faith with a clear destination and a reliable map. Faith that moves toward a land that has not yet been shown. That takes the first step before the path is visible. That trusts the character of the one who called rather than requiring the full picture before responding to the call. Abraham did not know where he was going, but he knew who was leading, and that knowledge was sufficient for the step. Not sufficient to eliminate the uncertainty, sufficient to move through it. That is the specific clarity being offered this Thursday morning. Not clarity about what the future holds, clarity about who holds it. And the person who has that clarity is equipped to walk into the unknown with a different quality of confidence than the person who is still trying to map the terrain before they agree to enter it. Your word declares later in the same chapter of Hebrews, verse 10, that Abraham was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. He was looking forward, not backward at what was certain and familiar, not downward at the immediate ground of the current difficult season, forward towards something that was not yet visible but was genuinely there, built by God, designed by God, waiting for the person who kept moving toward it even when it could not be seen. Let me be that kind of forward-looking person today, Lord, not pretending the uncertainty is not real, choosing to trust the architect of what is ahead rather than the anxiety of my own projections, looking forward to what has been built by hands that do not fail, toward the future that belongs not to my planning, but to your purpose. And I want to receive something else from Abraham's journey before moving forward. The text says in the book of Genesis that he went, even though he did not know where he was going. But it also says, at the very beginning of the account, that God had called him. He did not step out into the unknown alone and uninstructed. He stepped out in response to a specific call from a specific God who had spoken to him directly. The not knowing where he was going was not the absence of God. It was the presence of God in a form that did not include a full map. That is the shape of a lot of faithful lives. Not uncertainty without God, uncertainty with God. The calling is real, and the presence is real, and the destination is genuinely held by the one who called. What is not available is the full picture in advance, and the faith required is not the faith to step into absolute darkness. It is the faith to follow a voice into the parts of the road that the voice has not yet described. Lord, let me hear your voice clearly enough this Thursday that the absence of the full picture does not feel like the absence of direction. Let the call be sufficient. Let the presence be the clarity. Let the next step be visible enough that the ones I cannot yet see do not become the reason I refuse to move. Your word declares in the book of John, chapter 10, verse 4, that when the shepherd has brought out all his own, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. They know his voice, not because they have a map, because the voice is familiar. And the familiarity of the voice is what makes the following possible, even when the terrain is new. Let me know your voice well enough today that the unknown future loses its power to paralyze, because the one leading through it is recognizable. I trust God with my future. His plans for me are good, and I do not need to see them all to walk forward in faith. Father, I want to ask you now for something that clarity about the future practically requires. I want to ask for the ability to be fully present in today, because one of the most consistent costs of anxiety about the future is the loss of the present. The person who is mentally living in next month cannot be fully here in this Thursday. And this Thursday, with everything it holds and everyone who will share it, deserves a person who is actually in it. Not half here and half in an imagined version of what April might produce. Presence is an act of faith. It is the choice to trust that God is in this moment, as fully as He is in any future moment, and that what this moment holds is worth receiving rather than rushing through. On the way to the future, the mind has decided is more important. Every moment fully received is a moment where the future was trusted enough to let the present be what it is. And a life built of such moments is a life that will look back from the future and realize the journey was as significant as the destination. Before you mentally inhabit tomorrow this Thursday, before the mind skips past the afternoon to next week, stop. Look at what is actually here right now, the person in front of you, the task in your hands, the opportunity in this hour that will not be available in any other hour. Receive it. Be in it. Trust God with what comes after it. Your word declares in the book of Lamentations, chapter 3, verse 23, that His mercies are new every morning, not every tomorrow. Every morning, which means the mercy for this Thursday morning is not a recycled version of yesterday's provision or an advance on next week's. It is specific to right now, available in this moment, for this person. In this specific set of circumstances, the mercy is present tense. And a heart that receives it present tense is a heart that has trusted the future enough to actually live in today. And Lord, let that present tense living produce something that the anxious future scanning never does. Let it produce the noticing of small graces, the detail that is worth receiving, but that the mind racing toward the future moves past. The evidence of your faithfulness that is present in the ordinary hours of a Thursday, but that only the present-anchored person collects. Let me be that collector today of what is here, right now, from a God who is also here, right now. And Father, I want to ask for something that trusting the future produces in the present that anxiety never does. I want to ask for generosity, because the person who is anxious about the future tends to hold on to resources, to relationships, to energy, to the things they believe they might need later when the uncertain future arrives and makes its demands. Scarcity thinking about the future produces scarcity behavior in the present. But the person who has genuinely trusted the future to God lives from a different posture, from abundance rather than scarcity, from the confidence that what will be needed in the future will be provided for in the future, which means what is available today can be given away today. The generous person has trusted the future enough to release the present. And that releasing, that open-handed living in the present, is one of the most visible evidences that the future has actually been trusted rather than only declared to be trusted. Let me be generous today, Lord, with my time, with my attention, with the patience that the anxious person guards jealously in case they will need it later. Let me give today what today is asking to receive, from the confidence that tomorrow's provision will be available tomorrow, and that the God who holds the future is not going to run out of what the person who gave away today's abundance will need when tomorrow arrives. I trust God with my future. His plans for me are good, and I do not need to see them all to walk forward in faith. Father, as this prayer moves toward its close, I want to receive something specific about the future that I am trusting you with. Not the full picture. I am not asking for that. I'm asking for enough to know that the one who holds the full picture is trustworthy, and the evidence for that trust is not in the future. It is in the past. I want to trace the thread backward for a moment, to the futures that have already become the past. The seasons that were uncertain when they were the future, and that, once they became the present and then the past, revealed a faithfulness that was invisible from the earlier vantage point. The situation that looked uncertain and resolved in a way that could not have been planned. The door that closed, that I did not want closed, and that turned out to direct me towards something better than what was behind it. The prayer that went unanswered in the form I asked and was answered differently in a form I could not have requested because I did not know it existed. That is the track record. That is the evidence that the future, whatever it holds, is in the hands of someone whose previous handling of the future can be reviewed and trusted. And every season of past faithfulness is evidence for the faithfulness of the one holding what is still ahead. Your word declares in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28, that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. All things. The futures that arrived as expected and the ones that did not. The answered prayers and the ones that were answered differently. The open doors and the closed ones and the doors that appeared in walls where there were no doors before. In all of it, he worked. In all of it, the purpose held. And in all of what is still coming, the same working is already underway. I trust God with my future. His plans for me are good, and I do not need to see them all to walk forward in faith. That is the declaration I carry from this prayer into the rest of this Thursday and into the future it is opening toward. Not that I have seen what is coming, that I know who is in it, not that the uncertainty is gone, that the one who holds the uncertain things has a track record that eliminates the need for certainty before trust. Not that I have stopped caring what the future holds, that I have given it to the only one whose holding of it actually changes anything. To everyone who prayed with me this morning, go back to the comments and write it one final time. I trust God with my future. His plans for me are good, and I do not need to see them all to walk forward in faith. Return to that declaration every time the mind tries to reclaim the future from the hands you placed it in this morning. Subscribe to this channel and come back tomorrow morning. We are here every day, releasing what belongs to God and receiving what only God gives. Share this prayer with someone who is facing an uncertain future and needs something stronger than optimism to walk into it with. What you send might be exactly the anchor they need before the week ends. May the Lord give you today the specific clarity that comes not from seeing the future, but from knowing who holds it. May every anxious projection be replaced by the settled confidence of a person who has placed what is ahead in trustworthy hands. May you find in this Thursday the present tense mercy that was prepared for this exact moment, and may the future, whatever it contains, be walked into not with dread of what might come, but with the quiet expectation of someone who knows that what has been promised will be kept. In Jesus' name, amen.